Hey folks, Matthew Weiss here, WeissAdvice.com and WeissAdvice here on YouTube. Going to do a kind of quick one today. Basically, the development of technique works like this. You run into a situation, you hear in your imagination what you want, you figure out logically how you might get there, you experiment, and you see if it works. And sometimes you experiment and it doesn't work, sometimes you experiment and it does, and it's something that you've never done before. So this actually happened as I was going back over this mix. It's a mix that I had done 3 years ago. I redid the mix today, and I want to focus on the piano here in this section. I'm going to start it from the chorus because I think that's kind of the best way to hear it. Well, actually, we could start it a little earlier. So we're going to talk about this piano sound. Of lies, hate it when you cry, baby, for you I die. So the first bit of processing on the piano is something that I would have done 3 years ago. It's a little bit of triggered low shelf, getting out of the way of the kick drum when it hits, just because we don't really need the low end of the piano while the kick is hitting. Lets the kick breathe a little better. And then Decapitator giving some fuzz to it because this whole record has this kind of like dark, grungy sound. So this is a good way to get a little bit of grit from an otherwise clean piano. Pretty straightforward, pretty basic stuff, but the piano has some stereo information to it. However, it's fairly mono sounding. Now, in general, I'm actually more of a fan of mono piano than a lot of people are. Typically, when I'm doing acoustic piano miking, I really like to do an XY kind of configuration outside of the piano and get a whole image of the piano. But sometimes it is nice to have that wide left and right kind of like mic inside the piano type of feel. Now, obviously, this is a virtual sample of some sort, but it kind of has that real acoustic piano feel. So how would I get a bigger stereo image to this piano? I think it calls for it, right? One of the ways that we can do it, and probably one of the ways that I would have done it 3 years ago, would be to do some kind of a hostile. And a hostile, pretty simple, straightforward. You have your, whatever you're splitting, go through a stereo delay, and you set the left side to 0 milliseconds or bypass so that the left side is just unaffected, and then the right side you set to 8 milliseconds, 10 milliseconds, up to maybe 25 milliseconds, depending on how wide of an image you want. And that causes the right side to come in just a little bit later. And so you end up getting what was mono now becoming stereo because the left and the right are not giving you the same thing. Technically, you can do it either way. You don't need to do the right side. This is just what I did this time. You can delay the left side and keep the right side the same too. So I'll give you the before and after on that. Here's before. After. Maybe I would delay it a little more. Maybe I'd make it like 15 seconds on the right side. Or maybe a little less. I'm not really sure. Let's try 6 milliseconds. Doesn't really seem to make too much of a difference, to be honest. The good part about this is that we create this very wide image. The bad part about this is no matter what I seem to do, no matter how I seem to set it, it just kind of feels like mainly the piano's coming from the left. It's giving us that precedence panning effect, and it's keeping the sound kind of not like what you would normally hear in an actual acoustic piano played out. It feels more like a weird panning of it. Not a bad thing. It works. It's going to get the job done. I'll play it with this on, and you know, it's going to sound fine. Of lies, hate it when you cry, baby, for you I die. So overall, it's an improvement. It matches the more atmospheric feel of things, but it kind of just creates this sort of smush of piano that smears across the stereo field. Now I'm going to play what I ended up doing. sounds a lot more like a mic'd interior of a piano. Let me play what the original one sounded like. I'll play the new one again. Now, I think if you take a second, without even really looking at the screen or trying to do detective work, just using kind of what you heard, you can sort of guess what I did. But it's one of those things where I came up with an idea and a concept to say, I wonder if this would work for creating a sound that was more like the interior of a piano being mic'd up and give me that kind of spread that makes it feel like it's still one solid image. It's not like some weird smeary thing. And I kind of followed through with it to see if it would work. So basically what I did is I took a copy of the piano and I pitch shifted it down an octave. If you think about hand placement in the piano, if I was playing the same chords on the right hand but playing it on the left hand, it would be an octave down, and that would give me the stereo spread. So I said, why not add an octave to it? Right? It's the kind of record where musically it would probably work. The only thing that would make it a little bit kind of questionable is that I would be adding an entire low set of notes to an arrangement that already has a lot of kind of low stuff going on. So I just made sure that I did some very, very strong EQing here, where I'm taking a lot of the lows out. Because remember, I didn't need the low octave. The arrangement was already kind of complete as it was. I don't need that low octave for bass. What I need is that low octave for spread and to give us a little bit more interest to the piano. So my octave version sounds like this. The regular version sounds like this. Now, realistically, that's sort of the middle of the keyboard that's being played on the right hand right there. If this was a realistic image, it would be much closer to center, but I don't want realism. I want something that's specifically going to be wide and to help the ambience. Now, we do notice a lot of distortion and weirdness happening in the pitch-shifted version. However, when we hear them both together, our ear kind of fools us into thinking that it's kind of working anyway. Like, our brain connects the similarity of the sound to make it feel like one piano, as opposed to noticing all of the weird artifacts that are actually on the low octave version. So now, when I play that in the mix, it sounds like this. I'm going to play it one more time. And I think that a discerning ear is going to be able to tell that that's not a real acoustic piano. But honestly, it actually kind of sounds that way. Like, I think the end listener without an educated ear would be tricked. It has the feel of a real acoustic piano, which I think not only makes the stereo spread an advantage here, but it also makes just the texture and tone more compelling. So this is a way of thinking outside the box, creating a new technique, saying, I wonder if this would work. I wonder if I set this up as if it was two hands playing this chord and spread it out like that, it would sound like somebody actually playing a grand piano and give me the stereo spread that I'm looking for. And, you know, sometimes these things don't work, but this time I think it did. Love lies. Hate it when you cry. Baby. Also, just as a side note, this first note needs to come up. I talked about the importance of doing like automation and really focusing on the music as being like one of the areas that I've improved on the most and where I'm really stressing to you all to improve as well, you know, no matter what levels you're at. This downbeat was too soft. They make me love lies. Hate it when you cry. Way better. Gave it that drama. That was just an aside, but I wanted to show this because it's two things. It's technique that you can now take. This works on strings too, by the way. If you have like a string trio and you double track it and you still find it sounds thin in the mix. Got it. You can put an octave below it, and actually you can even tuck an octave above it, like really low, and you'll get a much more like orchestra kind of sound. Same idea here. You can do that, so you can take this technique and you can use it in your production and mixes, but also it's the line of thought. It's the idea of going, what do I really want musically, and then trying something and seeing if it works. Okay, let's wrap up here. If you dig this video, hit that like button. If you want to catch more videos like this, hit subscribe. Remix, hit subscribe with the bell notification so you get notified. Hey, WeissAdvice newsletter, sign up for that, get that free copy of the low-end guide. Time is running out, so please check the description box below, click that link. And lastly, you know what we say here at WeissAdvice, we are musicians, sound is our instrument, and I will catch you next time.